So, period pain. It's normal, right?
I don't know if I would say normal. I would say common. Who isn't dealing with some kind of cramps or pain?
Yeah, super common, right? And it's like it's been normalized, at least the generations that we grew up, right? You got to take Midol, you got to like have cramps that are so bad that you got to stay home from school or work.
I know. It's insane. It's crazy. And everyone that you talk to is like, "Oh, like that's just part of having a period." And it's like, "No, no, it's not."
It's
And
just
we've
part of being a
absolutely
woman.
normalized it.
Yeah.
Right. Part of being a woman, part of having a period. You go to your doctor and they're like, "Why is this even a problem you're coming to me with?"
Here's birth control. Oh,
Yeah.
and here's birth control that's going to fix your period cramps, your mood, and your acne.
Yeah. And your PCOS and you broke your arm, take it. Why not?
Why not? Well, we got to make sure that you're having safe sex before we can have the surgery, right?
Right.
Anyway,
True.
okay. We're being a little brash, but you catch the drift. So period pain is not normal. Some symptoms that women experience, and fortunately for me, I am not one of those people that have had like really bad periods, which is amazing. It's like severe cramps to the point where they have to stay home from work or school. The amount of blood some women bleed is astounding to me. It's like
Insane.
cups of blood, and you're able
Literally.
to work. Like you're bleeding through a super tampon and a pad every hour. Like I don't know about you, but are you as shocked as I am about the amount of blood some women bleed?
I think I've just heard it so much from all the women that I work with that I'm like, yeah, you're basically hemorrhaging every month. And I just, heavy bleeding is so much of what I do that I think I'm just numb to hearing it now. But
Yep.
I think it is, when you contextualize it, when you think about how much an average bleed is, which is about 3 tablespoons of blood,
Mm-hmm.
and most women are like, I bleed that in like 20 minutes and
Yeah.
that lasts for multiple days. It's like, oh, that's not okay.
No, it's wow. It's definitely humbling. So what as far as the heavy bleeding goes, that's kind of the standard. You're bleeding a couple cups, super pad, super tampon. You bleed through. What's kind of your approach that you do to help a gal get that under control so her so she's not so dang tired?
Yeah, so right now I'm working with a girl who she came to me because she was like, she does manual therapy and she's like, I'm literally hemorrhaging every single month for an entire week and it takes me out and I become anemic. And then the
Yeah.
week after my period is just recovering from how tired I was from bleeding out for a week. And so we, dug a lot deeper and turns out she had a lot of gut stuff. She actually had a lot of like sexual trauma as well. So that was a
Mm,
huge factor for a lot of her pelvic pain and her bleeding. And then we dove into her liver metabolism and her gut health. And all of those pieces within like 3 cycles, she was literally crying in the visit because she was like, I don't know who I am without my heavy bleeding. Like it's become my identity. And I'm like, I didn't have to take off work this month. I didn't have to, buy 3 boxes of tampons. And I'm just so confused as to, is this my new life? Like, I don't know what to do with all my time. And it was such a funny but also like crazy thing to hear her say of like this has become such a big part of me and now that it's not there anymore I don't know what to do. So really diving into how your body is clearing out your estrogen, how you're getting rid of those hormones and why you were building up such a thick lining to have to shed in the first place is what we want to look at. And for so many people it looks a little bit different, but it does come down to gut health and liver metabolism because those are the two places that your estrogen is getting metabolized and then excreted.
yep. That makes so much sense. And you said 3 cycles and she was a different person. That's pretty impressive.
It
She's
is.
probably lived this way for years, decade.
Years.
Yeah.
Years. Yeah. She's in her, I want to say she's early 30s. So
Okay.
yeah, it's probably been almost 2 decades.
That's crazy. So I see similar things. I say 1 to 6 months, we should notice a substantial shift. And the
Mhm.
folks that it's like a month, it's like we did some very basic things, and these are not always the case, but it's always amazing when it's like you just did seed cycling, some NAC, and maybe a little bit of liver support, and like night and day difference between 30 days later.
Yes, I will say there is that spectrum of 1 month you start to see changes, and then there's that spectrum of it's been 6 months and I'm not where I need to be, and that is okay because especially with deeper healing and naturopathic healing, what happens is we're undoing and unraveling decades of chronic shit, and so that's not going to happen in 3 cycles. Yes. for some people, things do improve. And even after that, it's kind of an up and down. It's not always this linear, like in 3 cycles, she got better and it stayed amazing for the rest of her life. Like your health is always going to be up and down. So I do want to say for people listening, like I think a lot of times marketing kind of gets to you and you're like,
Mm,
this person felt better in 3 months, I can do it too. And then they get absolutely feel like they're a failure, feel like nothing's going to work, et cetera, et cetera. It takes time. If you've had these issues for years, just
mhm.
3 months is not enough time to say, oh, well, I gave it my best effort. Like you have to put in a good amount of time to start to see, okay, I'm changing my life around. It's a huge shift in your identity, who you are and how you live that also makes the difference in how you're going to feel.
Yeah, it's building habits is the way I talk about it, and you're totally right. Like it's not a point A to B and then all of a sudden everything's good to go. It's like, well, maybe you have like wedding season, you're going to 3 different weddings and you're drinking a little more and traveling more and you're not eating as much fiber as you usually do, right? Like it's the context of how we are living our life total. Now, can you get to that point where, in 2 years you can have wedding season and it's not that big of a deal, right? It's like, but
Yes.
this is taking time to get there.
Exactly. Yeah, that is a really great point of like there are different things that might throw you off in where you're at in your health journey. If you're just starting, yes, a wedding season might completely tank you. However, a few years from now, you're like, wait a minute, drank way more alcohol than I normally do, and my periods weren't so painful. I wasn't lying on the ground crying every, week.
Hmm.
So it totally can be like, how is your current environment right now, and how can we support that, and what do we need to do?
Yeah, and the physiology of hormone detoxification. When I've tried to explain this to conventional colleagues, they just I don't know. They have forgotten physiology. I'm not sure, but it comes down
They
to
never
hormone health. Or maybe you
totally.
didn't get it potentially, right? You just slap hormones on it. It's like more is better. Oh, your hormone replacement therapy is not working. Do you? Okay, sorry, I'm jumping a little
Yes.
bit. Do you see women that are in their seven? Do you see anybody with menopausal issues?
Girl, I see people with menopausal issues. I see people who are not even menopausal yet and they're still on HRT because their doctor told them their testosterone was low.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so I've got patients in their 70s, and I've had this a number of times. On hormone replacement, they keep getting up, 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 and they start having breakthrough hot flashes and night sweats. Like they are going through menopause again.
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
like, that's because your hormone detoxification needs to be assisted. And that is with liver support. I have a couple products I really, really like, and they're mostly herbal based. And I use them because most herbs that are liver support kind of are bitter and tough for people to swallow.
No, I always tell them it's medicine. It's not going to taste good, so take it or leave.
That's right. I mean,
I'm a little harsh in that because I'm like, you know what? I know alcohol doesn't taste good and people drink it. So if you need to add your tincture to juice, do it.
do it. So do you do compound tinctures or do you use like something that's already on the market for folks?
Tinctures, I don't use a ton of them. I'll do maybe like Vitex or sometimes milk thistle, but for the
Sure.
most, or mostly what I do is bitters. I love using bitter herbs, or just
Mm-hmm.
bitters like as a spray for digestive support. But otherwise, I find that capsules, more people are compliant with capsules, so I
Yeah.
just use capsules.
People are more compliant with the capsules, and I don't understand what it is because I personally like the liquids a little bit better because I get pilled out with
I do
this
too.
the
I
capsule
know.
thing.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so milk thistle is a fantastic liver herb. Some of the other ones I like to think about are like artichoke and anything berberine containing mahonia or Oregon grape is one of my faves. Trying
Hmm.
to think what else is in some of the one of the formulas I use. Milk thistle, dandelion root. What
Dandelion
else?
root. Yeah, that is definitely one of my go-tos. Honestly, those are a lot of what I use, and I use a lot of nutrient support as well, like
Hmm.
things like a multi, magnesium. All of those are also liver supportive, and I think people forget that the basics of like a multi and a magnesium is also going to support your liver. And if you're not getting enough of those nutrients, whether it be from your diet or wherever, that is still going to make a huge difference because your liver thrives on these nutrients. So herbs
Yeah,
can also be effective. And how can we support your liver in giving it
yeah.
the actual nutrients that it needs?
Yeah, and we talked about this a second ago. Like digestion plays a pretty big role in like period issues, and if you're not digesting well, you're probably not absorbing your minerals, even if you are having a super good diet.
Totally. Yeah, I actually recently had a patient who she eats a plant-based diet and her MCH and MCHC were pretty low and she was like, "Oh, well, is this anemia?" And I was like, "It might just be that your B vitamins aren't getting absorbed in your gut because she came to me with a lot of GI issues. She had
Mm-hmm.
H. pylori, she had an ulcer, she had gastritis. And so, of course, with all of that, like, hey, your intrinsic factor is probably a little bit on the low side, so it makes sense that you have a pernicious anemia."
Yeah. And intrinsic factor, for those of you that don't know, it's the protein that handholds B12 through the stomach so that it gets absorbed in the small intestine. But the crazy thing is, you have to have stomach acid in order for intrinsic factor to
Yep.
get made. So this is
And
why sublingual or liquid B12 can be really helpful.
especially if you're plant-based, and also if you struggle, if you're on she's been on Prilosec every single day for a year and a half, so
Oh my
I know
God.
this is like your area too of like, and then because she's had gastritis because she had such bad period pain that she was taking NSAIDs every single day for 10 years.
Oh, yeah, the NSAID things was a contributing factor to my reflux. I was taking them probably 800 megs every day for years before
Ugh.
I ended up with a stomach ulcer. Yeah, a couple weeks ago, I had a 2-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 60-something-year-old, and an 80-something-year-old on a PPI. It's like,
I know, it's
who isn't on a
crazy
PPI? Like, it's
at this
insane.
point. I know. So
So,
anyway, yeah. So if you have been using PPIs for a really long time or even short term, and then you see that you have, your MCHC and your MCH are low, it might not be that you have to take the B12. It might be that your body has no idea how to use the B12 you already have in your
mhm.
body.
So this was something, so plant-based doesn't entirely mean she's not eating any animal products.
No, she's vegan
She is vegan.
and has been for 15 years.
So
Yeah.
my understanding is that even the sources like nutritional yeast and stuff, they're analogs of B12 that our body doesn't recognize and absorb properly. So I asked a colleague who was formerly plant-based, and she's like, no, you have to take B12 if you are going to be plant-based, because it's just not, you don't get it from your food.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, B12
Especially if you
is,
don't include any animal products. Like even dairy is fine. It has B vitamins in there. However, yeah, if you're completely vegan, then you're not getting any B12 unless you're supplementing.
yeah, exactly. Okay, so minerals. And the other thing that's also super important for gut health, and I say this all the time, is like we have to bind up the hormones. And how do we do that? We have to make sure we're getting fiber. So I don't know about you, but I'm not a fan of like being strictly carnivore, strictly vegan. I think we're omnivores, and we need some fiber. We need some protein. We need to balance our blood sugar. We need to absorb our detox things, and so we can poop them out. Is that what you
Hmm.
see as well?
Yeah, essentially. I mean, a lot of us are not eating enough fiber. A lot of us are not pooping as often, especially with heavy bleeding. That's what I see the most is I
Mm,
often see women who are not eliminating effectively, whether that's constipation, whether that is loose stools all the time, not a well-formed stool, whether that's I poop once every 3 days, whatever it might be. There's something going on with elimination, and that is often where I see that we need to start for with women who have really heavy bleeding.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have to be able to have an effective way to eliminate getting our munctories, our organs of elimination functioning well. And if those aren't doing well, it doesn't matter how great your treatment plan is, how targeted your approach is for the heavy bleeding and the menstrual cramps. Like you can't take out the trash.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So do you ever, so you're in a state where you can prescribe. I am not. Do you ever find it useful to use something like progesterone for women that have heavy bleeds?
I have used it before, and honestly, you can get it online now. Like, you don't even need to necessarily get a prescription for it. There are a lot of different websites that patients can just do it on their own. Which I don't know if that's good or bad, but it
Yeah,
is what it
pros and
is.
cons.
So
Yep.
yeah, there it is. I My biggest thing, however, is how long are you going to use progesterone, right? It's not
Right.
getting the root cause. Why is your progesterone low in the first place? What's going on with your estrogen? Why are they off? What else can we do? If we have, kind of exhausted everything, you're still feeling miserable. We've tried the things to even slow down your bleeding, things like yarrow or whatever it is to kind of dry things up that we can do. All of that we've tried, you've done the things, we're not seeing progress, then I would say, okay, let's get you feeling better. I don't want you to have to feel miserable while you're doing all of this. Let's add progesterone in. However,
Mhm.
I'm not going to be the person to, oh, you have heavy bleeding. Let's start with progesterone. It's
Right.
not a starting point.
No, no, no. And that this is the therapeutic order, right? Like we go up as appropriate. And if like you've been working together with someone for a period of time, then, I can think of one example where there was a gal I worked with early in my practice that I was shocked about the amount of blood, and she had an ablation is ultimately what we decided to do. And she still bled after the ablation. She was still having what would be considered more of a normal period, still on the heavier side, but it was insane. And no like fibroids,
Wow.
no reason for having a heavy period.
That is crazy. That I have not heard.
Yeah.
Usually, all the women that I've worked with who have had ablations, they feel like it works, and then 6 months to a year later, then the bleeding comes back. But
Yeah.
I've never had it to where right after it didn't work.
Yeah. Yeah. I think she had 1 month where she didn't have a cycle, and then it was like, oh, this is what a normal period is like. This is what my daughter's periods are like, she said.
Oh my God. Wow. That's,
Crazy. The human
yeah.
body, humbling, humbling. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so a nutrient that you talk about a lot is NAC or NAC
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
N-acetylcysteine. Tell me about that.
I love using it for so many different things. It's the precursor to glutathione, and I know a lot of practitioners love just recommending glutathione, especially if someone's body has a hard time converting, which totally is fair. And a lot of people are also, I work with a lot of people who have GI issues and they're really sensitive to sulfur, so
Yeah.
NAC is really triggering for that. So in that case, we don't use NAC. However, I love using it because it's so universal for so many things. It helps with cervical mucus and fertility. It's an antioxidant. It can help with your liver function. It helps with lung health and it helps with so many areas of our body. And it's much more cost effective than glutathione. So
Hugely cost
it's
effective.
it's one of my favorites for many, many reasons. So I love recommending it. And I think it's finally like getting the clout that it deserves. It's getting lots of recognition, which I think is just overdue for it.
Mm-hmm.
But I really recommend it typically for patients who have PMS, PMDD, who struggle with just liver metabolism and clearance, which is so apparent when you have lots of allergies, if you have histamine issues that flare around your periods or flare around ovulation, if
Mm-hmm.
you struggle with mood swings, if you struggle with breast tenderness or hot flashes, night sweats around your cycles, all of those typically indicate to me there's something going on with your liver that we need to look into. And NAC might be one of the pieces that we add in. I'm not going to say, oh, you struggle with all those, let's add in NAC, come back in 6 months, because it's not going to be the end all be all. However, part
No.
of the treatment plan can include NAC, and I often find that for those specific conditions and those type of liver metabolism symptoms, it can be really effective.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you an advocate for using labs quite a bit?
Oh, yeah, I definitely always do labs
Yeah.
for anyone that comes in just because I need to get a baseline. And I also preface by saying, because I also get the patients that come in and they're like, I need this lab and this lab and this lab and this lab, and my doctor didn't do this, and I want this, and I want to test this. And I always say, what's the point? Because we're not chasing labs, we're looking
Yeah.
at your full picture. So if your
Mm-hmm.
practitioner is one of those plug and chug, like this lab is off, take this supplement kind of practitioner, you've probably had a laundry list of supplements. You've probably overloaded your liver at some point, and now you have period issues because your liver's been overloaded by all the supplements you likely didn't need. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that we want to look into, and just adding supplements for a lab value is not going to be helpful. So I like to do labs to confirm or deny what I'm already thinking is going on with you. So if I'm like, you know what, I think your estrogen might be a little bit on the high side and your progesterone might be low, and I think I want to get a sense of where your DHEA levels are given how stressed you are. I want to get a sense of what your insulin levels are doing because I think there might be some blood sugar regulation issues going on, or I want to see how anemic you are. I want to see where your inflammatory levels are. Then I absolutely will do those labs and I look at those. However, I'm not gonna a lot of people would be like, can I do labs before I even see you? I'm like, no, I don't know what to order for you. I need
Yeah.
to get that full intake. I need an idea of what is happening in your body.
Yeah.
How is it your liver? Is it your gut? Is it a combo of both? Is it your blood sugar? Is it your stress? What do we need to work on and what do we need to dive deeper into that might be missing? That's what the labs are telling you. They're not dictating the treatment plan, they're helping us refine it.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the world we live in. It's like your labs are normal or in reference range, I'll say, and therefore we don't need to do anything. Or they're out of reference range. Your TSH is a little high. Here's your synthroid on your way. Like
Right.
this, we're not performing algorithm medicine. We're performing
Mm-hmm.
individualized healthcare. And I think you said on your right website, like high touch care. Like we want
Mm-hmm.
you to be cared for and heard and believed, really. It's
Mm-hmm.
like the birth control pill really didn't help my period. It made things worse, and now I have really bad acne and my hair's falling out. It's like, yes,
Mm-hmm.
I believe that that's your experience. Now how can we get you off of that? I'm a big advocate for teaching like fertility awareness method. And
Mm-hmm.
what's really great is I'm seeing young folks, like people early teens, early 20s, that are starting to do their own cycle tracking. And I don't know
Good. Thank God.
who they learned it from, but that is not the
The
generation. It's like,
internet, the internet is where they learned it from. Thank God that we are all talking about period health all the time now
yeah,
because yeah, I had no idea when I was ovulating if I was ovulating or when my period was going to come.
no clue.
Never. And so that's the number one thing that I tell people is if you have no idea what else your body is doing, you better know when you're ovulating and if you're ovulating. Because if you just have that one piece of information, that tells us how long your follicular phase is. That tells me about your estrogen levels. That tells me about your egg quality. How long is your luteal phase? That tells me about your progesterone. That tells me
Uh-huh.
when your symptom, like there's so much information that you can tell about your own body that I get from you tracking ovulation when you come to me with
Yeah.
issues that is already on the table so that we don't need to just go back to the basic of, okay, well, let's find out when and if you're ovulating. There's so
Exactly.
much value in knowing your body because as much as I care more than maybe your average doctor, I'm not going to care about your body more than you care. So if you're not going to look at what's happening in your body, if you're not going to pay attention, if you're not going to tell me when you're ovulating, if you think that that is too much to do, the work that you and I are going to do together is not going to be for you.
No, definitely. I agree with that. And just for the listeners, the follicular phase is the first half of your cycle from the day you start your period to the day you ovulate. And then
Hmm.
the oh my god, the luteal phase is after you ovulate to the day before you start your period. And this is a thing that's tricky for people to understand. It's like your period is the entire length of your cycle. It's not just the days you bleed. It's like,
Yep.
yes, the days of our bleed. Oh, I bleed for 5 days. Oh, no, no. I want to know your full length of your cycle. And this is where
Yeah.
like tracking apps, I don't know about you, but the tracking apps with all the freaking ads and whatnot, I'm just like so over it. And I finally found one app and I'm not being paid by them, but Kindara is a great app. There's no ads. I love it. It's super easy to use. And we can use it whether you're tracking your period because you're 17 or whether you're trying to get pregnant and you're wanting to check fertile windows.
Yeah, and I will say too, a lot of people are like, "Oh, well, my app says I'm ovulating." Your app has no idea.
No.
Your app is based on an algorithm. So if you're someone who's like, "Oh, I track my ovulation," my app tells me if you're not using basal body temperature or cervical mucus or progesterone tracking, then you don't truly know if you have ovulated. Your app is just guessing when you might ovulate based on when your last period was. And that can be completely off. I have so many women who have a 30-day cycle and they don't ovulate until day 20, which means they have a
Ooh,
very short luteal phase, a very long follicular phase, and there's things we need to address on both ends.
yeah.
However, if you didn't track that, they'd be like, "Oh, my cycle's regular, everything's fine." So, a lot
That is
to
a
look
good
into.
point. Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. And I like the cervical mucus because it's the feedback right away. And the basal body temperature, man, it's tough. It's tough to remember and like you wake up at the exact same time before your feet hit the ground. And common misconception, it's not a vaginal temperature, it's an oral temperature.
Right. Yes. I love using the temp drop for that. I feel
Uh-huh.
like they've made it really foolproof, really error and user friendly. And so,
That's the
like
one
if
that
you
does
are someone,
averages, right? You keep it right here on
yeah,
your
it's
arm.
on your arm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it does the, oh my God, which artery is that? The temporal artery? The
Oh God, I forget.
brachial.
Yeah. Brachial. There we go. It's the brachial artery.
That was that. Mark's over there being like the brachial. I was like, the fact that we both forgot though, at least I feel better that it wasn't just me.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's measuring your temperature based on your brachial artery, and so it is as accurate as it can be, obviously without getting an oral temperature, and it's measuring your body temperature all night long. So
Yeah.
I love using it because you just put it on and then you sync it with your app in the morning. There's no like, oh God, I didn't wake up at the same time, or oh no, I accidentally took a sip of water, or oh no, I got up to pee, but then I went back to sleep, or I have
Right.
so many patients who are like, I don't know how to track my temperature because, well, sometimes I wake up in the morning and then I'll go pee, but then I come back and I fall asleep sometimes, and then it's just like they get too in their head about it, and this just takes all of that away.
Yeah.
And you're looking at trends, right? You're looking at trends. It doesn't have to be 100% accurate. You really just need to see consistently, did my
Yeah.
temperature change? When did it change? What did it change to? When did it go
Mm-hmm.
back down? Like that's what we're looking for here.
Yeah, and the cervical mucus, I'm such a fan of people paying attention to that in their own body. And it's so funny that like somehow the pill became the thing that empowers women, but I feel like it disconnected us so much from our body. And so what I want people to do is when they're doing cervical mucus tracking and they're looking for that change, you go from kind of like creamy, slippery, gets a little stickier, and then I describe it as slingshot, although in all the books they talk about it being like egg white.
Egg
And
white,
I
yeah.
don't like that because that's not egg whites aren't sticky, they're just slippery.
They are more slippery. I think it depends on the person because I will say over time, mine has changed from pre-pregnancy to postpartum and like
Uh-huh.
now 4 years postpartum. Mine used to be, I would say that slingshotty, and now it's more slippery. It's
Oh,
more egg white like.
interesting.
So
Hmm.
I'm assuming many people have different cervical mucus types. And I will say for the most part, it's that you put it in between your fingers and you kind of lift your fingers up. And if it stretches in between, that's how you know it's fertile mucus. Whereas you'll check it at other times and it absolutely will not pick up between your fingers.
No.
It should be like snot. That's what
Yeah.
it should feel like. Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. And that's where NAC is so awesome, because if a
Mm-hmm.
person isn't having good cervical mucus, NAC is a mucolytic. And this is where, like,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like repro endos are recommending Mucinex because it's doing
Yep.
similar, thinning the mucus for the
Yep.
lungs, but also for the
Yep,
cervical mucus.
exactly.
So,
Yeah, it is a
yeah.
huge thing for fertility specialists to recommend Mucinex, but instead, let's just use NAC because you're also getting 1,000 other benefits.
Yeah. And you're also not getting the other ingredients that are in
Side
Mucinex that we
effects.
don't
Yep,
love. Yeah.
exactly.
So something that goes around, and like, I do follow people on social media that have different perspectives than I do, or more conventionally minded. And it's just tiring listening to them say, oh, that it's not a good practitioner if they recommend castor oil packs and seed cycling. Cut them
Oh,
out.
I guess I haven't even been following those people. Maybe I've blocked them all.
I see great results with both of those things. I wouldn't recommend them.
For
They're both
sure.
super cheap and super easy. And
And like, what is it hurting? You know what? If it's placebo, I don't give a shit. If putting
it's
oil
an
on my
effective
belly
placebo.
got rid of my period cramps and my pain without needing birth control and pain medications, great. Placebo away. That is amazing. It's really inexpensive, easy to do. You do it while you're sleeping or working or walking, like whatever it is. Like, if that is all I need to do and it can help significantly reduce my pain, my cramping, my bloating, my bleeding, why not?
Why
Like,
not?
who's mad about that?
No. And I've got an older woman that comes to see me. She's pretty knowledgeable. She's seen NDs for a large portion of her adult life. And she uses castor oil all the time for freaking everything. I wish more patients would be more liberal with castor oil.
Yeah, if it wasn't so sticky, I think I'd use it more, but
Yeah, I don't like the
I do,
sensation either.
yeah, I do love it for my packs and I love it for my eyelashes and my eyebrows and my dark circle. Like, I do use it pretty liberally for things. However, I think I could use it more if it wasn't so sticky.
Yeah, the tacky texture for sure. So castor oil packs, we have a colleague that makes the Queen of the Thrones.
Hmm.
What's nice about that is it's definitely not going to stain. What I don't like about
Hmm.
it is the price point, when you can just go to the natural grocer or the whatever your local health food store is and get a little flannel pack and a bottle of castor oil. The bottle will last you for quite a while. You're using a tablespoon.
Hmm.
And
I will say with that, I've tried because there are cheaper castor oil packs you can get online for like
sure,
$10. And I was like, I'm just gonna try them out because I know I have a lot of patients that are like, why would I pay $50 for this when I can buy this one for $8? I got it. The more expensive one just feels better. It
for
sits on your
sure.
skin, it doesn't dig in, it actually like stays put. I don't even notice that I'm wearing it when I would use that one. Whereas when I use the cheaper ones, I'm like, this is annoying and I feel like I'm doing a thing. So
Right. It's not
if
wrapped
you
around you.
right, exactly. So it is more of a comfort piece if you want to shell out the extra money. It is more comfortable, it is more seamless, it is more worth the money, right? You get what you
Right.
pay for. So
Totally, totally, totally. Like if
you
you're on a
don't have
budget,
to.
right.
Right. You don't have to. There are other cheaper options. However, if you're wondering why this one is so expensive, it is because it is higher quality.
It's higher quality, and it comes with different shapes. Like I've got one patient who we were working on some issues, and it comes with booby cups, is what she called them, little
Yes,
like
the
boob.
breast, yeah, for breast tenderness. I've
Yep,
heard people use that for fibrocystic breasts that can work really well.
exactly.
They have a thyroid one for your thyroid that I have seen a lot of women. I work a lot with Hashimoto's and I've seen them be able to reduce their thyroid antibodies by using castor oil packs over their thyroid, which is amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they have a liver one, they have a pelvic one. I typically tell people just get the liver one. It's the biggest one, and that can
Yeah,
go over your gut, that can go over your liver, that can go over your abdomen. It can kind of do all of the big ones.
exactly. Yeah. So period cramps over your uterus. And then over the liver, I'm
Mm-hmm.
blown away by the efficacy of it. Again, like it's such an easy intervention if you can remember
Mm-hmm.
to do it. And like I usually tell folks, like, hey, put it on the coffee table or someplace you're sitting hanging out through
Mm-hmm.
the evening, so you can do it then or before bed. The
Mm-hmm.
heat of the bed can be helpful too.
Yeah, mine's on my nightstand.
Yep, exactly. And like, yeah, the whole clutter thing. Anyway, so we're talking night sweats, hot flashes, loose stools, constipation, period pain. Oh God. Okay. Super bad period pain. I know you talk a lot about ginger. Ginger has some fantastic data
Mm-hmm.
for period pain specifically.
Yep.
Actually in a lot of places, but there's a lot of really good data on it for period pain. Is that what you
Hmm.
see
Yeah, you
clinically?
can use, you're going to have to use it in really high doses. I think a lot of people are like, oh, ginger, let me, slice up some ginger in my tea. That's not going to be effective. That might help
No.
a little bit with some bloating and gas, but you're not going to see that level of pain reduction from just eating it or even tea. You're going to need to do pretty high doses. I want to, don't quote me on um the dosing. I can't fully remember what the dosing is, but you're going to need to do them in capsule form and you're going to
Yeah.
need to do them like 2 to 3 times a day and you're going to have to take them for like a couple of months. Like it's the long-term dosing that you're going to need to help with those inflammatory levels. But if you
Mm-hmm.
get the period poops, if you get cramping, if you have a history of endo, if you get pain, all of that is typically what we're working on by lowering prostaglandins with the ginger.
Yeah. And prostaglandins are things that our immune system makes that are inflammatory, and the inflammation is what causes our uterine lining to slough off. So it's like
Mhm.
we're not trying to take away the body's ability to do things, but some systems can get just a little out of control because they don't have the tools to do their job most effectively, is the way I think
Mhm.
about it.
Mhm. Exactly.
So what else? Heavy periods, that's what you see a lot of. Months, pretty standard. I usually say 3 months to see a
I say three
meaningful
to six.
change.
Yep,
Yep.
yep, exactly.
And sometimes
Yeah,
it can take years. Like healing is not linear, and I wish that it were, but also like we need that feedback sometimes.
we do. I get it. And I always tell people just because your periods aren't changing doesn't mean other aspects of your life aren't, right? Your blood sugar's more stable, you're sleeping better, you have more energy, your hair's not falling out anymore, your skin is clearing up. Even though we're still working on the periods, doesn't mean we're not seeing that positive change. Sometimes it might be the last thing that changes, and that is
Mm-hmm.
okay because you're seeing these other improvements, which is a good sign that inside we're still healing and moving forward.
Yeah. Do so progesterone supportive herbs. So I've done some biphasic tinctures with patients because I see most of my folks in person, whereas you don't. And I do a lot of compound tinctures myself. Um, and I've done biphasics just a couple of times. And biphasic herbs is when you do some herbs for the follicular first half of your cycle
Mhm.
and some other herbs for the second half of your cycle. There may be some crossover as far as like liver support, but they tend to be more supportive of estrogen in the first half and more supportive of progesterone in the second half. I
Mhm.
know Vitex is super helpful for both halves of the cycle.
Mhm.
What
Mhm.
herbs are super helpful for progesterone? Because that seems to be like
Hon-
pretty standard problem people have is low
For
progesterone.
sure. Vitex is one that I do really love. Actually, Dr. Yarnell told me to do it as a biphasic. And so he told me to just pick a side of the cycle and do it for 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off.
Okay.
So I've been doing it that way for people, but I honestly find that taking it every day of your cycle also gives you the same benefit. And so if it's easier, just remember to take it every day. That's also an option.
Yeah.
So that is one that I do really love. But usually, I give it about 6 months. If it hasn't made a difference in your progesterone in 6 months, it's likely not going to be that effective. So you don't
Yeah.
have to keep going after that time. So that's one I really love. Another one is actually vitamin C, another very inexpensive, very
Okay.
easy to access one that I had a girl who had really heavy bleeding and suspected endo. And she was like, I have to call in from work every single
Oh,
month, and I'm just tired of feeling this way. And within 6 months, and we have the data to actually see it with her labs, her progesterone was at 9 when we first started. And
whoa.
we didn't add in any hormones. We didn't add in really anything other than she had some dysbiosis going on in her gut. So we worked on that. And then we added in a lot of vitamin C, castor oil packs. And within 6 months, her progesterone more than doubled. It went from 9 to 19.
Wow. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool. And yeah, vitamin C is super low cost,
Super low.
flavonoid. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's fantastic
And
antioxidant.
higher doses. I will say most of the serving sizes on the market are anywhere from like 250 to 500 milligrams. That's not going to cut it. You're going to
No.
need like 2 to 3 grams a day at least for
Yeah.
those antioxidant benefits. You're going to go to bowel tolerance. So that is typically what we're looking for when we say those higher doses. And that's really effective for inflammation, for histamine, for allergies, for
Mm-hmm.
PMS, for pain, for ovulation, so many different things. So again, vitamin C and NAC are two that I love.
Love. And they are both also very fantastic for allergies in those higher
Yep.
doses. And I agree with you. Like the stuff that's on the market that people get their hands on, they're like, oh, I paid $70. And I'm like, look at the ingredients. I'm like, you need to take
Oh
like
my
8 caps
God.
of this in order for you to
From
get.
the influencers, girlies who have no, degree, no like background in medicine or herbals. And then they're like, I got this tincture for my herbs, and it's like 500 milligrams of a proprietary blend of like 19 different things. It's like there's barely a speck of each of those in there.
Yeah.
And then you're paying $80 a month for the supplement. There are so many other things on the market. So I
Yeah.
know that influencers do a great job again at the marketing and getting the testimonials. And it's, you have to, at the end of the day, look at what's actually in it. And if it's a proprietary blend, I often say stay away.
Yep. I am
There
right
are a
there
couple
with
of
you.
proprietary blends that I love. Gaia Herbs has a lot of great stuff, and I trust them with their proprietary blends. However, there are not many others that I would trust.
I am right there with you because, again, we can't tell what's in them. A company I use quite a few supplements from is Seeking Health, and they do a lot of proprietary blends, but they didn't used to. You could see everything was
Right.
broken down,
I
and I was like,
know.
wow, this
That
is
must
like,
be a new thing.
it
Yeah, I
is
didn't know.
relatively new in the last,
Mhm.
like, maybe year or two that they've switched over, maybe for cheapness of the label. I don't know. But um, okay, so progesterone, vitamin C, that's pretty awesome. I want to see, like, are there any really cool, like, there's a case I'm struggling with right now. But I have her coming in for a follow-up, and I do think there's maybe some, like, maybe sexual trauma or some kind of, the thing about naturopathic doctors that I really appreciate is we don't just look at the gut. We don't just look at the reproductive system, and the emotional system. We look at it all together, and, like, our female sexual system is, like, so connected to our emotional health. And
So connected.
God, it's crazy. So I'm really curious if that's what's playing a role for her, because it's like we touch the physical realm quite a bit. And I do use homeopathy with my practice, though I haven't used it with her. I'm curious if maybe that we just need to sit down and do a remedy and see if that could be helpful for,
I have
moving her.
recently been very, very, very into homeopathy, especially because I do all my work virtually. I'm like, how am I supposed to do energetic medicine if I can't touch you?
Yeah.
Homeopathy has been a huge. I get a lot of carcinosins, which not surprisingly, they all have
Interesting.
hormonal issues, right?
Huh.
Carcinosin is your kind of classic women's health. When you think about it, it's kind of your
Mm-hmm.
suppressed woman remedy. And so when we suppress a lot of our emotions, what happens? It shows up in physical symptoms. So we're going to have a lot
Mm-hmm.
of period pain. We're going to have, I actually saw a girl yesterday who as we were talking, I think she realized, whoa, I never thought about this. Was she was like, I was like, well, when did all these symptoms start happening? Because she's like, I get really bad migraines around my period and I have really bad pain and that's just gotten worse. And I'm like, when did that start happening? She's like, about a year and a half ago. And I'm like, what happened around then? And she
Yeah.
said, oh, my daughter was diagnosed with, and she had
Yeah.
stuff going on. And I was like, and she's like, around that time, everything got really stressful and it's been this up and down. That's exactly when everything happened of I
Yeah.
had to step up, I had to put my own needs aside, I had to, and there was a lot of emotional stress around what happened then. And her body is responding exactly as it knows how. So, and I think a lot of us forget that so many women are like, I'm not stressed, I'm fine, I'm not stressed. And it's like, yes, you might not necessarily be conscious of the stress that you're feeling right now. However, your body is aware of it, right? If
Yeah.
you are doom scrolling, if you are bringing your phone into your bed, if you are feeling like you constantly have to be busy and productive and do and go, maybe that's just your life now and you don't see it as stress, but your body does. And a lot of times it's going to show up as pelvic pain, period pain, cramping, breast tenderness, hot flashes, mood swings, migraines, irritability, PMDD, PMS,
All
heavy
of it.
bleeding,
All of it, or some of that.
autoimmune disorders,
Yeah.
right? Everything, like it all,
Yeah.
gut issues, right? Our gut and our moods and our stress are so tied. I had another girl who was like, "Oh, around this time when stress happened, I started getting loose stools, and now they're always loose. They're never not loose except this one time when I went on vacation." I was like, "Hello, that is stress."
Yeah, well, and just getting people to acknowledge it. And, like, Dr. Molly would say something to the effect of, women, we drag our spirit behind us as we're going because we feel like we
Mhm.
have to, or whatever the societal pressures are. Like, we're a mom, we're a business owner, we're this, we're there, we're wearing 10 hats in the same day. And, like, that's a lot of work. And just to get someone
Especially the modern woman. Yeah, exactly.
100%, we can
Yeah,
have it
I
all and do
running
it
a
all.
business, yeah, running a business, being a doctor, having a kid, having a home, doing that. It's a lot to manage. It's a lot to think about. It's a lot to hold on your shoulders.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're all having hormonal symptoms. Obviously, we're all having hormonal problems. And it's gotten worse in the past 5 years with social media booming. And now we're all just sucked into our phones. We're too involved in everyone else's life. We're
Mm-hmm.
too involved in everything going on all around us. We are too aware of everything going on around us. And we are not meant to hold all of that information. We're not meant to know all of that information about everyone's business. So let it go. It's not yours to hold. And be ignorant to what's
Yeah.
happening around you. If you don't need to know it, don't know it.
Yeah, and this goes too for the news bit. It's like there's only so many things we can do to control. It's not helpful for us
Exactly.
to know everything that's going on globally, whether it's with friends that we've known or people we know from 20 years ago, or whatever's going on with World War, whatever we're not supposedly in, but it seems like we're in, right? It's like we
Right.
can't solve those problems, and that puts unnecessary stress on us. And it's,
Mhm.
we're not saying be willfully ignorant and not aware of what's
Right.
going on, but like
Right.
manage
Be
your
aware when it
stress.
matters. Know what's going
Exactly.
on. Obviously, be aware when it matters and use your choices and your actions when it matters. Don't just be ruminating about the world is falling apart. The world is falling apart. What is that going to do for you? So,
Mm-hmm.
anyway, my point in all of that is to say a lot of us are holding on and carrying stress that we're not aware of, and it's showing up physically for a lot of women. And so, if your hormonal issues are more recent, if they're more like, oh, they happened in the last 5 years, or they happened right around this time. Really think about what was happening in your life around that time. How stressed have you been that maybe you're not even realizing it? And what does your
Yeah.
life look like now compared to 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago?
Right.
There's for sure mine social media time has significantly increased. And I know that like impacts me directly in how I sleep, how I function, my HRV, my stress, my anxiety.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And so knowing those things about ourselves helps us then to manage our own stress. And walking the talk is something that's super important to me. And it's been tricky as a mom of a almost 7-month-old and a business owner
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
someone that's trying to make sure naturopathic medicine has a voice in the,
Hmm.
social media sphere. Like
Hmm.
it's definitely a lot. And it's okay to take a break. And it's like to say
Yes.
no, to say no, to say no, which I'm an over yeser. And I've finally just cleared my plate of a bunch of things I was doing. And it feels really good to like make
Hmm.
time for
Nothing,
maybe
to make time for nothing.
make time for nothing. Or like I'm planning
Yeah.
on going for a hike every week. So that's my goal is
I love
like
it.
go for a hike
Yes.
every week.
Yes. Same. Yeah. I've cut down so many hours and I've been like, you know what? Fridays are my day to do nothing.
Yep.
And by nothing, that means maybe I get my nails done. Maybe I go see a friend. Maybe I go to lunch. Maybe I do whatever the fuck I want to do when I want
Mm-hmm.
to do it because I have scheduled that time to just do nothing. Maybe I lay on the couch and do
Yeah, stay in
nothing. Like,
sweatpants all day. I don't care how nice it
yes.
is. This like
Right.
and there is something too, like the hormonal issues and overdoing too. I see this again and again, and especially
Mhm.
patients with hiatal hernia, like go, 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 never stoppers, whether
Mhm.
you're hiking or taking care of your all the things that we have to take care of, right? It's like stress management, I cannot emphasize, is so critical for hormone management because then what happens? We get bunched
Yep.
up and our
And
body
it's
can't do
also
its job.
how you're doing it, right? I had this
Right.
conversation again yesterday with a girl who was like, "Well, I take my walks every day." And I'm like, "Well, how are you taking those walks?" Because she's and I was like, "How do you feel when you take those walks?" She's like, "I feel like I'm escaping my life." And I'm like, yeah. She's like, "I'm ruminating on like, how I feel about my husband or how I feel about my kids or how stressed I am or how annoyed I am at this person for not helping, how upset and it's like just saying that you're taking the walks for your mental health, if you're taking your walks like this, and she's like,
Right.
I do my workouts because I'm really diligent about it, but I'm pushing through. If you're doing your
Mm-hmm.
workouts like it's not helping. There's stress management like this, and there's stress management like this. And if you're doing it like this, it doesn't matter that you're doing it because you're stressed while you're doing it.
Right. I
So
say this, are you meditating or are you meditating?
that's exactly what I
There's
told her too, because
there's a difference.
I have a person in my life who is like that of like he was like, can everyone be quiet? I'm trying to meditate. And it's like, that really defeats the purpose. You got to listen to the sounds and just kind of let them in as they are. Like, that is the point of meditating. It's not,
Music of the
everyone shut up,
universe.
I'm meditating. Yeah.
Yeah. But that just speaks to the level of stress that a lot of people are still feeling regardless. And it's like, I
Mhm.
got to work out and do all these things and I'm not getting the benefits from them. And it's like, yeah, the gym I was going to for a while, they play the news while you're at the gym. And it's like, they've got gazillion TVs and they're all playing the news. And I'm just like, I come here to relax and like feel my body. And now you're telling me about
Mhm.
whatever this, that, and the other thing. And I can't handle it.
Yeah, I know. We just have to close our eyes when we go out in public these days
Yeah.
sometimes.
Okay, so heavy bleeding, period cramps, castor oil packs. Okay, I want to hear seed cycling, man. I freaking love the seed cycling. Um, some things that I've heard some of our colleagues use is like evening primrose and like fish oil. I actually don't find those to be as effective as straight up seeds because I think you're getting the EFAs, the essential fatty acids, and then the fiber.
Yep, exactly. You're getting fiber and you're getting like a little bit of fat as well. You're getting tons of other nutrients other than just a single nutrient that's in the capsule that you're doing. So,
Yeah.
yeah, EPO, does have some research to show that it can be really helpful as a phytoestrogen. However, I find seed cycling, you're getting more benefit in other areas as well. And it's a food-based thing. You're not taking yet another capsule
Uh-huh.
that's. So I would say maybe 60% of the time I hear people tell me that it works. So that's still more than half. Even if it was half, I still think that's, one out of two people tell me that it makes a difference. That's not a bad statistic. But I would say a majority of people do say that it does make a difference for them in some small way or another. It might not be
Mm-hmm.
super significant, but I do see it usually takes anywhere from 3 to 4 cycles. It is one of those longer term ones that you kind of have to be consistent with. Some people have said in 1 or 2 cycles they notice a difference, but again, it depends on your body, how chronic things are. If you're
Yeah.
coming to me with several issues, gut issues, gastritis, and period pain, and you're like, I'm gonna try seed cycling, probably not gonna be very high yield. But if you're
Right.
just like, I don't know, like I've recently started getting a little bit of cramping and I have some like mild mood swings, totally a great fit to just start adding that in.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll see more drastic changes, maybe you won't. But again, simple to add in, easy to do, very like minimal on the negative
Cost.
side as far
Yeah.
as yeah.
Yeah, it's like pretty low yield. And again, like I like what you said. It's like for a lot of people, it's helpful. If it is just placebo, which it's not, but if it were,
Again, you're getting
50%
nutrients.
is still damn good for
Yeah.
considered like Prozac is 17% beneficial and they still put it on the
Right.
market. So
Right. Right.
maybe it's just placebo.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, okay. But
Honestly.
enough being a little bit of a little turd here.
I don't think the
Um,
weight gain is placebo though.
no, definitely not. So what else as far as like you having a period practice, you see a lot of these women, they come to you and they're kind of at their rope's end. Like anything else that you want to talk about that you found to be really useful clinically?
I think honestly, just helping them recognize like you've hit kind of the end of your road in the direction that you were going. We need to change course. This
Yeah.
isn't about what's the supplement, what's the pill, what's the magic herb that I'm going to take. That's not what's changing your life. It's when you come to me, we're making small changes that make a big impact. I don't want to say
Yeah.
big changes because the changes aren't huge. They're how do I add more protein into my meals? How am I getting a little bit more movement? How am I going to get myself a 20-minute wind down routine? Like these are not big things in the grand scheme of things. However, they make really big impact when you do them every day, and we're completely changing the direction of where you're going
Mhm.
with your health and your body. So that is what I like for people to know is that these small changes do add up. And it's the small changes that added up to where you got in the first place, right? It's the
Yeah.
overdoing, it's the go, 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 it's the feeling stressed, it's I want my special treat. And then the special treat is 3 times a day and it's happening every day over the course. Like these
Coffee
small
for
little things.
breakfast. Yeah.
Right. Skipping
Yeah.
breakfast, having coffee, and all of these little things are what got you here. And so now,
Mhm.
kind of backtracking, we're going in the opposite direction. We kind of have to go this way and then reverse out and kind of go the other direction, not necessarily just completely switch lanes. So
Yeah.
we are we are doing slower work and it may take a little bit of time, but
Yep.
you start to see bigger changes and you start to see a completely different version of you. And that's what we want, right? Your health and your body is yours for the rest of your life. So how do you
Mhm.
want to live?
Yeah, it's more sustainable long-term value.